Hi Cheryl, how are you?
I'm doing well,
Good.
thank you.
I am really pleased to see you. We're really looking forward to having you in the practice.
I'm excited to be here.
Good, good. So this morning, the goal of this particular meeting is to orient you to the practice a little, or to start that orientation anyway. And it's also for you and I to get a sense of each other, so that I have a sense of how you learn, you have a sense of how I teach, and we both have a sense of how those things can be put together or changed or whatever it is that we need to do to make it work well. So this morning, I'll be introducing you to some of the midwives, and we'll take a little tour of the clinic. Tomorrow, we'll go up to the hospital and orient you up there, which is a bit of a bigger job, I know. But we'll take you up to the hospital, introduce you to some of the staff, sort of show you where things are, how you get around the place, that sort of thing. And we have a binder as well that I'll give to you, which has sort of things about the clinic, stuff about the hospital, local resources, that sort of thing.
That seems like a lot to cover. I really hope I'm going to be able to remember it all.
I know it does seem like a lot, doesn't it? But as I already said, we have a resource binder, and I think you'll probably find it helpful to spend some time looking at that. I'll show you where it is when we do our tour of the clinic. Over the last, number of years, I've done a lot of thinking about how I teach and how students learn. And I think it would be helpful for us to talk about that a little. So when I was a student in the program, my teacher was a really tactile learner, and we did loads and loads of sort of practices and mocks and drills and that sort of thing before clinical events. I found that balance of supervision and hands-on a really, really effective and efficient way to learn. We did a lot of role-playing, which was really helpful to me. So it provided a really good balance of supervision and hands-on experience. So that role-playing covered all sorts of clinical things. Informed choice discussions, physical assessment, emergency drills, just about any sort of clinical event you can really think of. So there was practice in advance of having to go and do it. But different people learn in very different ways. Have you given any thought to how it is that you learn things best?
I think I'd feel most comfortable listening to you and your client at the beginning, since I'm somewhat of an auditory learner, and then combining that with some written information would be really helpful for me to process the situation. I tend to like to look at written texts, and then that gives me a sense of the rationale as to why things are being done, and it clarifies the situation for me.
So that's really helpful for me to know. We also have a resource binder of different skills that you will need to learn, and the sort of way you approach those probably depends on the skill itself. So we'll give you some time to have a look through that binder and to start familiarizing yourself with all those tasks. It's a lot. I know it's a lot. But in the meantime, what we're going to actually get you to start doing, starting right today, is meeting people in clinic and start to meet clients.
I can't wait to start clinic, but I'm a little nervous about jumping in right away because I think it's going to be a bit of a challenge with clients that I've never met before.
I understand that. I think you're right to be a bit nervous. It's a lot to take on, but we'll introduce you to things gradually. One of the things that we'll do is we'll meet every week before clinic so that you can help review the clinic charts. You might find it helpful to take notes. You might find it helpful to write little sticky notes and put them in the chart that identify, learning goals. And we'll set aside a little time after each clinic so that I can give you tips and some feedback about what's happened during that clinic.
What about feedback after births? I haven't been to many yet, but I assume that I could be pretty worn out at the end of a birth, that it may be difficult for me to process a lot of information at that time.
That's a very good point. And sometimes after birth you might find you'd need some downtime. If you've been up overnight, you're probably going to need to go home or go to sleep. but we'll make an appointment to get together so that we can go over things pretty soon after the birth while things are still fresh in your mind. And at that time, we can review the things you think you've done well and the things you've really got a grasp on, and the things that maybe you think you need to work on. And I can, provide you with sort of, again, tips and feedback, right? I have a form here that I'm going to ask you to give to the midwives that you work with at births. It's just a form that lets them write down little notes, and so that it doesn't slip out of their minds as well.
So besides face-to-face meetings, what would be a good way for me to communicate with you? Like, would sometimes an email be better than calling your pager, for example?
That's a good question. You'll have to work it out. Different midwives have different preferences, so it's worthwhile asking each one of them really what she would prefer. I would like to be called on my cell if it's urgent. I'll give you the numbers later. But if it's overnight or if it's not urgent, then you could send me a text message.
And will you be the only midwife that I'll be working with?
Not really. Again, most midwives have somebody else that they sign out to when they're off call, or for holidays and that sort of thing. So you're going to be following probably one of the other midwives, and we will give you a list of the clients that you can expect to meet that belong to her caseload. We'll talk together about it, and we'll talk with you as well. And we should figure out that you will do probably about 15 clinic visits a week, I would think.
Will I be working with any other midwives? I know that some students follow a specific midwife while others follow a list of clients. So what is the situation here at this clinic?
You're right, it's different from clinic to clinic. So, and in many places you'll just follow one midwife or her clients. I have a partner midwife who relieves for me when I'm off call. So you're going to get to knowing some of her clients as well. And you'll probably see the occasional other client who's actually not even on that list of people. We'll give you a list of people. We expect that you will do probably about 15 clinic visits a week. And I think you've probably seen this, but in the policy information handbook, there's the guide to birth numbers. So this will give you an idea of how many births you should expect to attend. We really like students to be involved in the life of the practice. So we meet together as a practice once a week, and there's a midwifery meeting monthly as well for our practice and other practices in the area. So we would ask you to come to those. As well, at the hospital, there are other sorts of things like educational rounds, presentations from different departments. And so we ask you to come to them. We don't expect you to come to everything, but we do ask you to come to some things. And we might even want to talk to you toward the end of the term about you putting together some sort of presentation for us.
Great.
So I think that's about all for now. So let's go on our little tour. I'll show you around the clinic, and you can ask questions as we go. So let's
Excellent.
go. Good morning, Cheryl. How are you?
Good.
Good. It's
Thank
good
you.
to see you again. So I think today we should talk about your learning plan.
I have no idea what to even put into a learning plan. I want to learn everything. I don't know what questions to ask or even where to begin.
I really understand that, and it looks quite overwhelming, I know. Do try to remember that you have other skills and knowledge and learning that you bring to the program before you were here. You know, your previous life doesn't disappear because you now changed to this venue. So the other thing that might be helpful though is to have a look at the evaluation form, because it lists all the clinical skills and knowledge base that we expect you to attain over the course of this term.
Okay, so I guess I should try listing the skills that I really want to work on.
Listing the skills is a good start. Try to take it a little bit further and try and break down the sort of the components of the skills that you want to learn, so that you break them down to say into knowledge and practice. And then we can start to establish some benchmarks that will guide you as to how you're going in achieving those goals.
Won't I know if I'm doing it right by you telling me?
Of course, I'll comment on your technique, and I'll give you tips about for better learning. But one of the things that you want to really take a look at is the Guide to Teaching Learning, and it has criteria that will help you to gauge your progress. So why don't we just take one particular skill and break it down a little bit more?
So how about physical assessment?
Okay, physical assessment. The AOM actually has a clinical guideline on physical assessment of the well woman. You can find that online. So why don't we take that and look at how those criteria would sort of break down into a learning plan.
Thank you. So you know what, I think I'll use that along with the evaluation forms and the guide and begin drafting a learning plan.
Okay.
So I think that's it, and I guess I will see you tomorrow morning at our practice meeting.
Good.
Thank you.